This has been like waiting for Super Mario 3D All-Stars all over again, but finally the wait is over. If you're living under a rock, recently Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury came out and I've been playing it a ton. Initially, I was just gonna do a first impressions video, but I figured it would be far more interesting to revisit the game as a whole. I will be discussing the little nuances with this version compared to the original on Wii U, but I'll discuss Bowser's Fury in the latter half of the review since I want to talk about 3D World more in depth. If you're just interested in my thoughts on Bowser's Fury, I'll leave a timestamp to that part of the review in the description, and I'm sure the little YouTube chapters thing will show up in the video timeline. Personally, I don't remember too much about the game, so needless to say, I'm excited to jump in. 3D World, rather than seeing Princess Peach getting kidnapped for the 5 billionth time, has Bowser go after a new species to take over their world. The Sprixies, as they're called, rule over the Sprixie Kingdom. How Bowser found the place doesn't really matter. I'm more interested in why the heck these things shake hammers and wrenches. Like, that is not how you use these tools, you tools! So yeah, Mario and crew set off to stop Bowser from doing Bowser things. That's the gist of it. There are a lot of things I could mention first and foremost, but I really want to talk about the graphics. Initially, my thoughts were pretty negative, but while the game does opt for a more generic Mario art style, I really don't care at all. The game still manages to look great, and Mario themes that are reused from previous games are done exceptionally well, such as the mansions and snow levels. There's a couple of levels with a ruined temple kind of aesthetic, and more definitely could have been done with themes like this, like the ruined temple could be a fun theme for a boss level. I feel like in some areas 3D World doesn't utilize its full potential, which is disappointing, but I'd be lying if I said it greatly hindered my experience. The game isn't the most creative with theming for sure, but I'll give it one thing: it still retains that signature Mario charm to it. I'll say I'm not huge on the promotional vendors for the game though. Mario looks oddly plastic-like, if that makes any sense. He's way too shiny, and some of that does carry into the game, but thankfully I don't think it's very noticeable. Alright, so let's talk about 3D World's gameplay. It's a point A to point B kind of game, familiar to that of 3D Land. A lot of people essentially argue that the game has no reason to be in 3D and that it lacks the interesting number of paths to take that it should have, and that the game in general is just boring, but I don't really understand this point if I'm being honest. 3D World uses the base that 3D Land created with its level design. World was just scaled up a bit for multiplayer, but I do not agree with the notion that it's bad for doing this. New Super Mario Bros. Did a similar thing with its entry on the Wii, but it didn't work nearly as well there as it's a 2D game compared to a 3D game. In 3D World's case, the levels are practically never empty. Sure, there was that one level with the open savanna that people love to call out, but it's few and far between when those kinds of levels do show up. The levels are perfectly enjoyable with and without multiple players. I'll agree that it's chaotic with more than 2 people though. You'll constantly be losing lives, either from messing around with each other or dealing with depth perception issues, but it's still very fun if you're playing with the right people. The crown though? No, that was a mistake and it ruins the multiplayer entirely. Okay, but seriously, the crown does things to people. I can still feel its draw pulling me back in. And about the it has no reason to be 3D thing, okay, again, that's just not true. Maybe if you're intentionally ignoring any and all areas that use the 3D to the game's advantage, but acting as though this is just an SMB Wii but in 3D is ignorant to say the least. As I said, the game takes advantage of the 3D to make a more interesting linear Mario game, one that certainly stands out in the crowd of the other 3D Marios. Utilizing the gimmicks we're already familiar with from 3D Land, plus some new ones, new power-ups, and even all new bosses. 3D World is not short on new level concepts or gimmick levels either, constantly refreshing the gameplay and honestly being some of the best parts about the game, like the Ghost House level where you're using these flashlights to get rid of the booze, the auto-scroll level where you're being chased by a horde of fuzzies, and the extra Green Star houses. These consist of miniature, self-contained challenges with the goal of grabbing every Green Star before the timer runs out. There's also the Captain Toad levels, which give a completely different kind of gameplay style, but they don't hold up as well as I remember. They're clearly here to fill in some extra space because it feels like there wasn't a whole lot of thought put into making each of these levels unique puzzles. For some reason they even implemented multiplayer up to 4 people, but it doesn't work because number 1, the levels weren't designed to be played with multiple people, and number 2, everyone can move the camera. It can also be difficult to see where you are just because of how zoomed out the camera is. Like, if you want better Captain Toad levels, just check out Treasure Tracker. For power-ups, 3D World features the likes of the Fire Flower, Mega Mushroom, Tanuki Suit, and Boomerang Flower as returning power-ups, and the Cat Bell and Double Cherry as the newbies. The Cat Bell is so dang fun to use, like the dive can get in the way here and there, but overall it's super fun messing around climbing up in the environments with it. It's easily my favorite in the game, and I really wish they would bring the Cat Bell back. Like, please Nintendo, I'm begging! Unfortunately though, the Double Cherry feels a bit like an afterthought, as it serves most of its purpose in single player. It's still a really cool power-up regardless, but not much is done with it other than, oh hey, you need to have a certain number of players standing on this platform, and I've noticed that it's very easy to clear the conditions of the platforms if you're just playing with 2 or more people. It kinda sucks that the Double Cherry is so trivial because I love the concept of it, but I don't know, it doesn't do much for me. While I'm here though, I might as well take this one opportunity to rant for a minute about the Fire Flower. I really don't like this power-up, especially since you have a better version of it in the same game, because I've never felt like the Fire Flower worked very well in the 3D Mario games because it just doesn't feel good to use because of how difficult to aim it can be. Speaking of movement options though, there are plenty in 3D World. The game includes the classic Mario moves such as the long jump, side flip, a less than tolerable backflip, and even a diving move. This is new in the Switch version, and while its inclusion is obviously for Bowser's Fury, it's still much appreciated for 3D World as well, as it has saved me several lives. Not that I needed to save them because of a certain 1-up exploit, but I digress. Having this much freedom for movement is pretty cool, even if the long jump is an odd move to have in 3D World since it's underutilized, but nonetheless, it's a great moveset apart from the backflip and the cursor. Okay, so in 3D World, there are some levels that were originally designed to take advantage of the Wii U gamepad, and seeing as there isn't a gamepad for the Switch, you get to use a janky cursor instead. Hooray. Basically, these levels had platforms and objects like doors that you would have to tap on to progress, and it's a shame that they couldn't do much else about these platforms because the cursor absolutely blows. I really don't understand how they made a worse cursor than Super Mario Galaxy on the Wii. Like, it's mind-boggling how much it skips around the screen, and it's super unresponsive. It works, but I cannot imagine using it online. This brings me to another change made in 3D World on Switch, that being a universal buff to every character's speed by about 30%. I think this really helped me enjoy the game even more, but it makes Toad a ridiculously fast character at top speed, as he was already the quickest in the original 3D World. I mostly played as Mario on my playthrough, but Luigi doesn't control very well with his speed boost. It's still playable, but much more difficult to be precise when platforming. He just takes a lot more getting used to with his floaty jumps and all. Mario is an all-around character like always, so he controls fine, and Peach has her floating ability, which is neat I guess, but I don't really like playing as her due to the limiting timer of her ability. With all of that said, you can play 3D World with multiple people and online. I can't attest to its quality or how bearable it is, as I haven't yet tried it, but from what I've heard and seen, it does stutter here and there. Considering the consistency of the Switch's online quality, I wouldn't expect it to be any better than that, unfortunately. Regardless, this is a huge addition for a Mario game, a mainline Mario game I should specify, because I have waited for this for years, and now the difficult part is finding people to play it with online. I'm really bad at segueing, so let's talk about the bosses. The lineup here is pretty easy for the most part. You'll have to fight some mini-bosses occasionally with these random enemy ambush levels that can be cleared in under 20 seconds. The big bosses aren't much harder though, unfortunately. You have Boom Boom, who simply spins around, Pom Pom cloning herself but making it so painfully obvious which clone is actually her. Like, bro, I know this was made for 5-year-olds, but come on, you cannot try to make a fool out of me like this. I will admit that there are some unique concepts for bosses though, with the big boulder dude or the weird thwomp thing. I do not remember the names of any of these bosses, I'm sorry. Despite that, I actually really like the boss levels in this game, especially the ones where you're intercepting Bowser's army or the train levels, and we also have some other new bosses, the snake things and this jester dude with a great design. I'm sorry, I genuinely cannot remember their names just like the other guys. They're oddly forgettable despite the fact I actually really like their fights. Then there's the Bowser bosses, of course. starting out with a simple, if incredibly slow car chase, escalating a bit with the next one, and then, hold on a second, Bowser, if you really want this fight to go in your favor, how about you don't throw bombs at Mario? Like, what do you expect to happen? Do you really think Mario will just take the hit like an idiot? Okay, anyway, really small spoiler warning, I don't know if anyone actually cares because the original game has been out for like 7 years, but in the off chance you do, check the description for a timestamp to skip this part. So the final level takes Mario and friends straight to Bowser's big hotel tower thing, leading to this carriage which brings the gang straight to it, only to be stopped by Bowser, who actually had a pretty good plan this time. Like, I mean, he actually uses a power-up for once. I gotta commend the use of brain cells here. I remember all those years ago just being mind blown when Bowser pulled out the cat bell. Like, what on earth? Bowser is officially a furry. Welcome to the club, man. So of course, Mario chases Bowser up all by himself with no help, being constantly ambushed by Bowser along the way, with him even using the double cherry to stop Mario. It gets real here. The final stretch consists of every Bowser clone destroying the hotel, attacking Mario, but finally we reach the top of the tower where freedom resides, and are we just going to let Bowser steal freedom? No! Triple boost! And so, Toad, being the selfish jerk he is, steals all of the credit. Everything is ruined. Thanks, Toad. The adventure doesn't have to stop there though, because after you beat the final boss, you unlock a bonus world, there being 3 bonus worlds in total. And something really cool about the bonus worlds is that you actually unlock a new character from the first one, Rosalina. Yeah, this is kind of a rad decision on Nintendo's part. Even if her ability is kinda trivial, I still like playing as her occasionally. The bonus worlds though, this is where the game easily gets the most difficult, a little too difficult at times. Yeah, we all know how ridiculous a perfect run is, but World Flower really started to frustrate me, but that could just be because I was playing as Luigi. I wish there were some more new levels though. I'm not one for refreshing prior content, but it's still great having this extra content nonetheless. So, Super Mario 3D World was a surprisingly fun game to revisit after 7 years. I was really curious to see if I'd still like it as much as I did back then, especially considering the odd amount of hate this game was getting for a while, but I honestly believe it's completely undeserved. Whether you're playing in single or multiplayer, 3D World was a blast then and a blast now, but that's not where this review ends, as we still have another game to talk about. Bowser's Fury. Yeah, this was the big thing they were hyping up for Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, but what exactly is Bowser's Fury, you probably aren't asking? Well, it's Odyssey but with 3D World's controls and moveset. I'm not even joking when I say that. I was thinking about how to describe it, and it's literally just Odyssey 1.5. Alright, let's slow down. So the story is that Mario stumbles upon a puddle of goop that drops him into a huge lake, like Lapcat, where we are thrown straight into the action with a ginormous Bowser towering over Mario and shooting death rays at him, but after collecting this token thing, aka a cat shine, aka the stars of the game, Bowser runs away because he's afraid of light. It's like a reverse moth. If you want him off your lawn, just stick a huge light bulb in front of him. We then find out that Bowser Jr. is here as well, intent on having a fun day with his papa, but for an unexplained reason, Bowser went into a fury upon arrival. With Bowser being uncontrollable and no sign of turning back, Bowser Jr. asks for Mario's help with saving him. I love how much Mario looks like he just does not care at all in this cutscene. He's just like, okay buddy, but who asked? Mario is just so fed up with Bowser's nonsense. I don't think a Mario game has made me smile like this since Odyssey, and that carries straight into the gameplay. I had the biggest smirk on my face while playing Bowser's Fury just because of how dang good it is. I did say it's like Odyssey, but it's more than that. It shares a similar design philosophy as Odyssey's, but with its own spin. Essentially, you have this one big interconnected area to explore, it being Lake Lapcat, of course. No sectioned off areas, no loading zones, no extra challenge areas, maybe a few hidden rooms, but overall this is comparable to the size of a single kingdom in Odyssey. Roughly. With this being a lake, a lot of area is taken up by the water, but it never gets in the way, nor is it entirely pointless, as to my surprise, they managed to make a handful of really fun water-based challenges utilizing Plussy. As I said, the variety and number of them is fairly low, but the overall catshine count is 100, so I don't mind. It just gives more focus on the meat of the game, the islands. Aside from the occasionally randomly hidden catshine, the islands are where you'll find the majority of the catshines. Islands house various challenges involving pure platforming, bosses, collecting blue coins under a limited timer, and much more. Each time you complete one of the main catshine objectives on an island, the island will change ever so slightly to create a new challenge fitting for the next catshine. This might sound bad, even lazy, but in practice it's much more fun than you'd think. I think a part of it chalks down to exploring each island, as that in itself is the perfect difficulty to not be too easy, forever satisfying and rewarding. Even then, each island stands out very well from each other with gimmicks that are nearly perfected. You will come across certain catshines that do feel more akin to the throwaway moons in Odyssey, but thankfully I feel that even those few are still of better quality. The larger focus on a more compact Odyssey-like experience is what benefits Bowser's Fury the most, at least that's what I think. Odyssey is good if you focus on the few moons you need in each kingdom, then go on to the next, but I feel that the larger issue of that game is the quality of each moon varying greatly. Perhaps my opinion will change later on, but even though I want more out of Bowser's Fury, I think it's better off being the length it is. The game uses almost every power-up in 3D World with an inventory system allowing you to carry up to 5 of each power-up. For whatever reason, the double cherry goes unused. I guess Nintendo saw how mostly pointless it was in 3D World, but still, I'm kinda surprised they didn't attempt to shove it in somewhere. And yet they include the special Cat Bell power-up. Not sure if I understand the inclusion, since this is literally the same as the regular Cat Bell, but with a different ground pound, but whatever, I guess. The power-ups can add a lot to the fun of exploring each island with every power-up's respective abilities. Even though you're given a ton of power-up reserves, it's great fun switching between power-ups to shake up the gameplay every so often. Now, I've seen a few people make this correlation, and I find it to actually be very true, but Bowser's Fury feels like a big combination of a ton of elements from prior Mario games. You've got the music, which sounds nearly the same as Galaxy's, similar to that of some of 3D World's OST, the catshines and goop remind me of Sunshine, and the islands have a mixture of 3D World and Odyssey, not just with the level design, but the similar dive move. And finally, the names for each catshine, such as Bully the Cat Bullies, give vibes similar to that of 64. Consider it a bit of a stretch if you want, but all of these small elements come together to make an incredibly charming Mario game. And can I just say how much of a bop the Ride Plessy theme is? Why on earth do you only hear it while riding Plessy? Like, I found myself riding Plessy a lot just to listen to his music. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about the name of the game, Bowser's Fury, get it? Because Bowser is terrifyingly huge and he wants to kill Mario at any cost. Throwing these huge spike things, raining and breathing lines of fire at him? Yeah, I wonder why it's called Bowser's Fury. Just calm down, Bowser, it's gonna be okay, just let me get out of here first though. Oh hi, please let me through. Okay, but the Fury event is nuts, man. Bowser will occasionally show his ugly mug and start committing several war crimes, but it's not exactly random. See, the background details are important to keep an eye out for, specifically this. This is Bowser. Every time he runs off, he submerges into the goopy substance and over time starts slowly rising out of the goop. Once it starts raining, that's when you know he's coming, then he shoots up into the sky and oh gosh, diddly darn diddly dang, we're all gonna die! Fury Bowser isn't all doom and gloom though, because he's actually useful for something. Specifically, there are blocks you'll find scattered about that can be destroyed by flames. Yeah, it's kinda dumb, but Fury Bowser is still cool regardless. You'd think it would get annoying after a while having this big doofus chasing you around, but personally I love the tense environment he creates. Like, it certainly makes platforming far more interesting when you have to play jump rope or face death. But how do you get rid of him? You could just collect a catshine or wait for him to get bored and run off, but there is another method. Around Lake Lapcat you can find these big, seemingly dormant cat bells covered with goop, but after you've hit the threshold of catshines needed, the bell will awaken the next time Fury Bowser approaches. Once he's there, grab the bell and you'll become Big Cat Mario! Kaiju v Kaiju, Turtle vs Kitty, it's an all-out, no-holds-barred battle. Of all the repeating Bowser fights, this is the one I enjoyed the most due to the conditions of the battle. This isn't the final battle as the trailer may have led you to believe, but it's still great regardless. Bowser throws himself all over, spinning about, but once he comes ground pounding at you, you'll want to dodge his shell, then give him a taste of his own medicine. In later fights, he'll start distributing the fake platform things, and you can grab these to throw at him so you can get some early damage on him. Even still, Bowser will run off at a certain point in each fight, so you'll constantly have to deal with him outside of the ring. Alright, so now I really want to talk about the finale for Bowser's Fury, but since the game is still fairly new, I'm gonna spoiler tag this section, so if you don't care, keep watching, otherwise skip to the timestamp thing via the YouTube chapters feature on the video timeline or the timestamp in the description. I'll give you like 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1 3/4, 1 1/4, 0. So after a certain number of cat shines have been collected, the game gives you a message saying that the light is no longer enough to keep Bowser at bay. This means that until you collect the rest of the 50 cat shines needed to ungoopify the big cat bells, Bowser will relentlessly hunt you down. This is such a great moment, not to mention an incredible build up to the final showdown. Just having him chase after me while I was trying to get up as high as possible to escape him was super intense and I loved it. As you'd probably expect, the final boss starts with the same Fury Bowser boss, you take him down and think that's it. Well, no. Bowser is still under the influence of something, so he catnaps the big cat bells, leading to a high-speed chase on Plessy to free the cat bells and end the chaos. Knock the cat bells into Bowser a few times and that's it. Such an amazing cap-off to a great side game. What can I say? Bowser's Fury is an astoundingly well put together, cleverly crafted experience, and I don't understand why. Like, this is literally meant to be an extra second to Super Mario 3D World. Not that I'm disappointed with it, far from it, but honestly they really should have called it Bowser's Fury plus, oh yeah, 3D World's also here, we made the characters faster and added in a dive move and you get the idea. This was the main selling point of the game, but is Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury worth it for Bowser's Fury alone? Well, that depends upon how you value games. If you value a game by the amount of playtime you get out of it, then probably not if you don't see yourself replaying it very often. Bowser's Fury took me about 3 to 4 hours to beat the main game and 5 to 6 for 100%. This will vary from one person to the next, but the average statistic I've seen going around is an overall playtime of around 5 hours for 100% completion. Of course, this is an extra shorter game included as a bonus, so that's important to keep in mind as well. If you don't like 3D World, I don't think it's worth spending $60 on a 5-hour game. Of course, if you do like 3D World or want to give it another chance with some buds, I'd highly recommend it. Both games are great in their own right. 3D World presents you with a refreshing point A to point B Mario platformer in 3D rather than being just another NSMB game. Constantly giving you new challenges and fun gimmicks, while a bit easy, this is still a great Mario game. Bowser's Fury gives an all-new experience completely unique from 3D World with its unique twist on Odyssey's collectathon gameplay. While it isn't that far from Odyssey, it stands out more, and let me be clear here, I enjoyed this far more than Odyssey. Odyssey is a fine game in its own right, but I don't know if anything can top the enjoyment Bowser's Fury gave me. Even after beating both games, it's fun revisiting areas to mess around with the new snapshot mode, though the stamps are pretty janky. Overall, I've had a blast revisiting 3D World and playing Bowser's Fury, and I can only hope that the future of Mario is as bright as Bowser's Fury gets me hoping it is. Well, what do you think about 3D World or Bowser's Fury? Do you like it or do you not? Let's start a discussion in the comments. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, consider subscribing if you enjoyed this review, it's Wisp, and I'll see you next time.